What up, dudes, and welcome back to the Yo Video Game Side Quest, a part of the podcast where we take a subject that we didn't have time to cover in a main episode, or possibly a question you guys have for us, and we'll answer it here.
Yeah, mostly we just talk about different internet fetishes. And today we're talking all about butter, where you can put it, how you can use it. Butter.
Where to spread it?
Oh, yeah. Whose buns are being buttered? No, no, there's two presentations, two
I
things.
was expecting you to go into duck butter there, but
Oh, nope. Nope.
hey, it's the side quest.
No, thank you. No, but today we're talking about the Final Fantasy 16 presentation, which for some reason, no matter how many times they said this is going to be all about Final Fantasy 16,
16. Where was Spider-Man 2?
people were so mad. Uh, but then also we'll touch a little bit on that new trailer, that new hotness from Tears of the Kingdom. Less than a
Yeah,
month away
so
from that.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up first, which was like it was crazy how many people just like did not like listen to it
I
being here's the problem. They should have just said it was a Final Fantasy 16 showcase. There's their problem. They labeled it as a Sony State of Play featuring
right.
Final Fantasy. So that's I'll give a little bit on like a little bit of fault to Sony there, where it's like you should have just called it a Final Fantasy 16 showcase.
There were so
Um,
many announcements saying though that it was going to be all about Final Fantasy.
yeah,
Like there was at least 3 announcements. There was at
I
least one
mean,
tweet.
there shouldn't have been confusion, but there wouldn't have been any
Yeah,
confusion if you just said Final Fantasy 16 showcase tomorrow.
right. Yeah. But I sometimes I make the mistake of watching the comments
Oh
as
no! Oh
what. Yeah,
no!
well, what? Okay, so I stopped doing it because I realized that it started coloring my opinions on
Mm.
things. Um, and that's just bad when you're trying to share your honest opinion. Um, but yeah, so at the beginning of it, people were all like, "This is only Final Fantasy 16," and people were like, "That would be such an L." And I was like, "Oh man, people don't even know." And then at the end, after it was over, I clicked off full screen. And I just saw all these people being like, "I can't believe they wasted so much time on Final Fantasy 16." I was like, "Wow, you really didn't know that it was going to be Final Fantasy
That does
16?"
say a lot. I mean, I mean, Spider-Man on PS4 sold really, really well, and
Hmm.
this really did was show how, in a way, I'm like, wow, people are really fucking chomping at the bit for Spider-Man 2. And not to deviate too much to Spider-Man 2, I'm a little bit kind of like, okay, Tony Todd is Venom, cool. I definitely it's cool, going to be cool to see Venom, but like, what do you expect to fucking see in Spider-Man 2?
Right.
He's gonna have new moves, sure, and there's gonna be Venom, but I'm like, he's gonna be swinging through fucking New York. Like,
I don't.
the only thing I can think of is like, okay, well, I want to see how upgraded the graphics on New York City look. Okay, kind of fair, but it makes to me, I'm just kind of like, yeah, fucking New York again, whatever. It's like,
Yeah, I don't. It's not that I want to shit on New York specifically. It just seems like we see New York so much in so
yeah,
much media that, like, and granted,
right.
Spider Man. Where the fuck else are they going to put
We're
him?
gonna,
It's not
yeah,
like
and you could do a
San
Spider Verse thing,
Antonio.
but yeah, San Antonio Spider Man. Um, so yeah, I mean, but that kind of leads into a little bit with 16. Where I'm like, okay, I'm excited to see 16 because it's new Final Fantasy, which means lots of new locales, lots of new areas, new story, new characters. Which I don't know. What did you think of the presentation? They're like Final Fantasy 16, in the long running franchise, blah blah blah. There were two things that stuck out there. They're like, you don't need to know anything about the previous Final Fantasy games, and I'm like, that's always been true.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm like, how many people? I'm like, but step aside, pull your ass away. There are tens, I mean, literally tens, multiple tens of millions of people that have never played a Final Fantasy. There's at
Right.
least many tens of millions of people who've never bought a Final Fantasy.
Gaming
So,
made such a jump in the pandemic. Like, just the
mhm.
audience for gaming expanded so widely during the pandemic. I have a feeling you're going to see more legacy games or like you um yeah, god, what's the word I'm looking for?
Legacy franchises, really.
Franchises, thank you, is the word I was like. You're going to see more legacy franchises that haven't had a game in the last, like, say 5 years or even 4 years, um that are going to start doing stuff like that. But I think this is maybe one thing that I really liked about this is this might be the first Final Fantasy I've ever seen that is actually trying to be geared towards newer gamers. Maybe even
Mhm.
say the casual gamer.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I was thinking something that's sort of cool about this, and it made me have like I'm sure other games have done this and they're not like breaking the mold, but the idea of adjusting the difficulty of a game on the fly based on the attachments you're wearing,
Mhm.
like you can
And then they
significantly
had on
change.
top of that, they also had like at the title screen, they had like story mode, which is like
Right.
we'll just auto equip all of the specific accessories, so you don't even have to worry about it or think about it. Like I just want it to be set to auto all the time, and it's like okay,
Sort of brilliant.
we have a button for that too.
Like that I actually think that's sort of brilliant because the Final Fantasy story tends to be what people like really truly fall in love with.
Hmm.
Like people won't necessarily remember the gameplay aspects for years and years and years, but if it's your first Final Fantasy game, first fuck syndrome is going to mean that like you're going to have attachment to this
Oh
story
yeah, for sure.
for decades. And two things really stuck out to me. One, the icon battles seem pretty fucking epic. They
Oh
do.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Combat in general actually seems like it's pretty epic.
And it's funny you said that too, where it's like, yeah, gameplay may not be the thing that people remember, but they get really attached to story and characters. I'm like, this might be the game where people actually are going to continuously talk about the gameplay, mostly because
Right.
it's such a dynamic shift. Although they're like, this is the first time Final Fantasy's been an action RPG. I'm like, so, and my immediate thought was, so fuck all those spin-offs and fuck Final Fantasy 15 in particular.
I
Like, I
guess
guess it
so.
wasn't an action RPG either.
So one thing that I was thinking about when they said that, because I had the same thought where I was like, did wasn't 15 technically?
Yes.
Um, maybe this is the first time they're trying to do like platinum style action RPG where it is a
Mm,
constant
hmm.
rush where like
Yeah.
because I know 15 had some breaks and had some RPG elements in the middle of
Yeah,
battles and
and it wasn't great.
right. And so maybe this is just that next evolution where it's like this is totally balls to the wall,
Yeah,
just action.
I like how they're just like, no, 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 no. We're fully embracing Devil May Cry Platinum because they got Devil May Cry's combat designer. They poached him like
Yeah.
openly from Capcom.
I wouldn't have known that, but I definitely saw the similarities there. I was going to actually call that out where I was like, it looks like a Devil May Cry or a Platinum. Like it just
Yeah.
looks like that. Um that being said, what if I'm gonna be a nitpicky bitch for a second, I was trying to think of like something about that combat always seems off and like maybe it's just a lot of action games don't have good impact.
No, no, you're right. I was gonna say here's the problem. If they don't have it doesn't feel good to hit things.
Yeah, like what it like
Which the top of the line Platinum and Devil May Cry does feel good to hit things.
right.
It's what makes those games, and what makes games like that not as good like that.
So I'm really hoping that they have that impact.
Yeah,
The other
yeah.
thing that stood out to me is like chocobos look cool as fuck, and I think riding chocobo might be the biggest selling point for me. The same way riding a horse and like doing
Mm.
frontier shit was the seller for like Red Dead for me.
I had already heard about it before this presentation, but the presentation literally showed you, I'm like, okay, this is how the world map looks, and I was like, I was kind of like, bummer. But then they showed the areas you go to because it's a literal map. You click on a point on a map, and it loads into that area. The areas you load into look, at least initially, look big.
Pretty incredible,
Like
yeah.
they look, and they look really good graphically, and they look big, and like you can ride a chocobo around in some of them. So it's like they're it's not, the world doesn't look small. It is segmented. It
Right.
is segmented, but it looks good, and it looks in a way it kind of almost gave me like a Monster Hunter vibe, because it's like Monster Hunter. It's
Yes.
like you pick like an area, and you could go to that very well thought out just like biome, right? And then and like the size and scale of it.
It you know what? Now that we're talking about like they poached the DMC guy, um, it it does feel like a Capcom. When I was
Right?
watching, I was like,
Yeah.
"This says, like, Capcom on it." I
It
wonder how many
almost
people they
has a weird Capcom
Yeah.
feel to
I
it.
something weird, like, culturally, um, that I've noticed with Japanese games versus, like, Western games, and Western games do it too, but, like, the way they cast voice actors
Mm.
versus how like Western games will cast voice actors. Japanese like archetypes for characters, like Sid, not Sid, like Sid is in his name. He's like your friend and mentor guy. The friend and mentor guy in a lot of like Japanese films and like
Yeah.
anime and stuff has to have like a super deep voice.
Oh yeah, and they got that one guy. He
Yeah,
got really deep voice, 16 gravel.
Andy has to have like an entertainer's flair. So his movements
Mhm.
are always like, oh, I'm just gonna wave my hand around and that kind
I
of thing.
think it's one or the
But then
other or
he's
both. Like
he,
sometimes both. Yeah.
sometimes both, and this guy has both. But the deepness of the guy's voice doesn't match the way the character looks.
No, yeah, because that guy's voice was significantly deeper than when I
Right.
saw the face of the character. I was like, well, I guess you just have a very deep voice for your build, sir.
It's like if um fucking Paul Walker had Vin Diesel's voice.
Yeah,
Like he has the voice of a fucking 250-pound muscle bound like just baritone beast.
yeah.
It's like Zangief just in this small dude. Um Very weird. And I've noticed that like the archetypes of Japanese characters, um just from like I don't want anyone to think that I'm criticizing it. Like when you get into storytelling and writing, you're going to start noticing these things, and it becomes part of the fun of it. And one thing that I've started noticing, especially in the last few years, because I've started watching more anime on recommendations from listeners and stuff when I was doing like reviews and stuff, that archetype, the mentor can't have like a normal. He has to have a deep, wizened, well, like world weary voice.
Mhm.
And it's like, oh fuck, it doesn't matter what he looks like. He's got to have that. Like even
If you don't want that, you can play something like Genshin Impact, where like your Navi-like character is a little tiny, like lolly elf girl with a really high, squeaky, bubbly voice that makes you want to saw your ears off with a cheese grater.
Well, yeah, but see, I would feel better about it if the Navi character had like a burly ass beefy voice, because then at least it's like incongruent in a fun way.
And
Like this is
that
just
is why you should play Xenoblade 3. Because I know, like in Xenoblade 3, everyone knows there's this character Riku who is a Nopon. Nopons are Moogles in Xenoblade, right?
okay,
And they always have like cartoonish little high pitched voices, whatever.
but
And
not
then
this guy.
in Xenoblade 3, the localizers just went fuck it, give him like the deepest voice possible. So you get like the British Allstate guy, like or what sounds like the Allstate guy but British, um, who's
That's
in this
amazing.
little tiny cute Moogle like character, a Nopon. And the Japanese version is not like that. He has a little high squeaky like little boy's voice in Japanese. But in English, they're just like, fuck it, let's just give him like this super deep voice.
I love that shit.
And I was
I
like, this
do.
is amazing. I love it so much.
Uh,
Because he still kind of acts like a Moogle sometimes, and then sometimes he acts mentory because he is a mentor and he's also like a Moogle. So it's like he has both like isms or whatever, but he's just a super deep voice. This is bad, Noah. Like,
I want that mentor Moogle like character to have the voice of the guy who plays Mayhem in those commercials. Um, you know who I'm talking about? That
yeah, the
fucking
guy
guy.
like gets beat up or whatever, and he's
Yeah,
talking about insurance
I want that guy's
claims.
personality and voice, but in a mentor character that looks like a Navi or like a Moogle or something like that. Like sure, what do I fucking know? Do whatever you want. Like amazing. Um, but overall, I'm actually this might be the first Final Fantasy that I'm really jazzed to personally play
Mhm.
in a
And
long
I
time.
felt that way for a while because a lot of people think like, oh, you kind of always shit on Final Fantasy. I'm like, well, because Final Fantasy doesn't live up to its name. But I said from the beginning when I found out that like the current Final Fantasy 14 people were making 16, I was like, oh, this is going to be good. I don't play 14, but I just knowing how much they had to fix and
Right.
improve and have been consistent for years. I'm like, this game's gonna be great. And it is great. I mean, like the only nitpicky thing I can really say about the game is that there were times where like you could really tell it's based off the 14 engine. Because like most of the time it looked fantastic. And then there's like a couple very quick spots where like the lighting was really flat.
Yeah.
Like it just noticeably like really flat and basic in a couple spots, and I'm like,
I wonder if that'll get
yeah,
polished out because it's specific characters also seem to have like flatter lighting on
hmm,
them specifically than the area
yeah,
around them.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
was thinking like, oh, maybe they just like slapped that in there real fast and they'll,
hmm,
I don't know.
yeah, like that's basically it. And I'm like, I'm not sure how I feel about having a hub because it seems like they go real Elden Ring style with it, where there's like, yeah, there's a hub. You click on the map, go to your hideaway, right? And your hideaway has like a blacksmith, and they have like a weapon shop and an item
Like
shop.
Monster Hunter, a little bit
Yeah,
like Monster
a
Hunter, you
little
mean?
bit like Monster Hunter, a
Yeah.
little lot by like Monster Hunter. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the weirdest thing. This is Final Fantasy meets Monster Hunter meets Devil May Cry,
It's,
and I'm
I,
all for it.
yeah, no, I'm not saying anything bad against it, but it is something that even I notice. And I'm probably, compared to you, definitely far more casual.
Mhm.
Like, if I'm noticing it, I feel like everybody has to be
I
noticing.
do also like the like. I mean, the thing I really like, I like the fact that the character's going to be in his 30s, at least some portion of the game.
Yeah, the very
Uh,
end when he's supposed to be decrepit.
you think so?
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, it's going to take place in his 20s and his 30s, and he'll have a flashback in his teens. And I'm like, and they showed the teen flashback part. I'm like, oh, this was to get Japan on board.
Yeah.
Uh, but like, yeah, like it's an M-rated game. It's got blood and sex and all that other shit in it. And they're saying like, yeah, we just wanted to
Sometimes at
go.
the same time.
They're like, we just wanted to do an M-rated thing. I'm like, I'm all for this. The icon battle, um, having game. They're like every icon battle has a gameplay twist. One maybe it'll turn into Panzer Dragoon, maybe it'll turn into like Asura's Wrath. I'm like, excellent. That
Oh, yeah.
is that is the way you do it because that's how you keep from getting the battles just to feel too stale, too like cutscene, mash button,
Right.
cutscene, mash button.
Well, it's why there seems like a promise of this being the first Final Fantasy in a while that really stands out.
Yeah, and I think this is gonna be the first Final Fantasy since 11 that's gonna release without major incident. Like, didn't go through dev hell. This is the first non-development hell Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy 11, about 20 years ago.
I
That is not a good track record for Final because like 12 had major development issues, 13 had development issues, 14 definitely had development
They
issues.
just redid it.
He just completely remade the whole thing. 15 had a lot of development issues. So here we are at 16, 20 years later. It's the first time they're releasing a Final Fantasy that didn't go through a dev hell. And it's funny because it's looking phenomenal. So,
I don't want to get too hyped because I feel like I'm then gonna look like a major asshole if it comes out and it's garbage. But it genuinely
I
like
just, I don't know. It's the pedigree is there, and there wasn't a struggle. It's like these people know what
well,
they're doing. Like,
I'm gonna say this as a transition into the other topic, but also because it is how much it should it should be a big statement. I thought if I had to come down to choosing it or Tears of the Kingdom, I might choose it.
mm,
Like if I only have the money for one of the games, which might happen to me this year, and I have to
especially with
wait on
especially
another
with
one.
tears being 70 goddamn dollars as
Yeah.
well.
I was like, I might choose Final Fantasy 16 just because Tears of the Kingdom looks great. Like I'm not trying to say it doesn't look fun, but it also looks like it's more of what I got with Breath of the Wild, which was I fucking loved.
Yeah,
But
which a lot of the Nintendo diehards are very like militantly adamant
they're
that
really
like
mad
how
about that. Yeah.
how different, how dare you, how this game looks so different. Everyone was so you saw the trailer. The trailer came out yesterday, the final trailer, and like look how different it is. Like it shut everyone down. I'm like, I don't know that it did because here's the thing. I'm not a guy who I don't say this game looks like DLC. I'm the guy who says why did this take 6 years?
Right.
Um,
It looks cool. Like the thing is I don't want anyone to like listen to this and be like, "Oh, Andrew hates the new Zelda." I
mhm.
do not. I genuinely like it looks great. It doesn't look like it's much of a leap from Breath of the Wild if at all, but it looks cool. That trailer is a cool
Yeah,
trailer.
there
Ganon
there
looks like a daddy.
yeah.
I'm loving Ganondorf.
Yeah,
Somehow Ganondorf has returned.
I'm sure the story will be
the weakest part.
Weakest. Well, what's the? How do you say milk toast? Like, I'm
Yeah,
sure we.
Milquetoast.
Yeah,
It's a good word though.
like, like I'm
No one
sure.
uses that word.
What?
If you know what, if you're out there and you're thinking about like I need to insult somebody terribly, instead of saying like I don't know, you fuck bad, be like, yeah, well, you're milk a toast in bed. That hurts because they gotta look that word up. They gotta figure out, wait, how bad is he saying I'm in
Okay.
bed?
It's probably not going to be like nothing, but it's just going to end up being like the same thing. Like Ganon's reviving, and he's going to bring all the darkness and evil to the kingdom of
Right.
Hyrule, and you must kill
Yeah,
him.
I'm a king.
And,
Yeah, you are, daddy.
they're not
Get
going
it.
to do anything. My point is not going to do anything interesting, and people are going to be like, "Why would you expect something interesting from Zelda?" Which I always just reply with, "We'll go play Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening and shut the fuck up."
Well, that's why
Because like
everybody hates those.
I mean, shit, Wind Waker, I thought was a really interesting, twist on the narrative. Even if it did end up again with you fight Ganondorf with Zelda's help at the end, but still, like the context and what you were fighting about, like the ideas brought forth in Wind Waker. Now, maybe this game's going to surprise the fuck out of me and us.
God, I would really like that.
What if the story was like we're actually like had a much deeper, richer narrative than we're giving it credit for? It could. The trailer was great yesterday. It was exactly edited entirely like the Breath of the Wild launch trailer.
Hmm.
The exact same way, exact same pacing, exact same beats, and
It had
build up
had
and drop
similar
offs.
musical notes too, where it would
Yeah,
like
music was
yeah.
great, but again, that trailer for Breath of the Wild was the music was nowhere in the game, which I'm expecting the same to be here. The
Yeah.
music will be just for that trailer because we saw actual gameplay and it was using the same fucking music from the last game. But not getting too off topic there. Like the trailer's great, Matt Mercier's Ganondorf that was confirmed. Yay, whatever. Nothing against him. I'm just like, I hope they give Matt something interesting to do with his lines. God damn it! But I'm not expecting it. Um,
We'll see.
we didn't get confirmation on dungeons, although it kind of looks like there's dungeons.
It does,
I
yeah.
it kind of looks like there's. So I'm a little more optimistic, hopeful that there will be. I didn't see anything that looked like a fucking shrine, but you don't see fucking shrines in the Breath of the Wild launch trailer either. So I just here's my thing. I just want and this is something the trailer could never do. I want the gameplay loop to be interesting and the narrative to be compelling from beginning to end. I don't want there to be a 10 or 20 hour drop off point where I'm like, all right, I fucked with the physics a bunch. I'm
I'm
mostly good with this game. I'll just
yeah.
go run to the end and kill the last boss and have call it a day. Right.
I'm
Excuse me.
realizing something with like maybe it's just like it's the troll in me, but like something that I've really come to enjoy just in games in general is when they do a decision narratively that is risky. Even if it doesn't pan out, I'm now more proud of them doing a narrative. Like
Mm,
if they decided like like Zelda dies in the end, Ganon kills Zelda, and you have fucking failed as Link. I know they're never gonna do that, but I'm saying if they did something like that, it would instantly make this one of the most memorable games in the Zelda series. And they almost don't even have to make it a good game. It'll just immediately be memorable. Then if it's
yeah.
just an okay game with a fucking memorable Zelda died and you failed, now it sets up a game where it's all like, oh, Link is a failure and he's got to like redeem himself. At least then it puts it in a different one thing. If I'm going to give a complaint about Zelda, is most of the games are basically the exact same story over and over and over again, but it
Yeah.
happens centuries later on a different timeline or what it like that's probably why Majora's Mask and Link's Awakening appeals to us so much is that it is a departure from, it takes the character and the ideas and then puts it it departs from the main story of just like repeating the same
Yeah.
thing uh ad eternum. But I know they're not going to do that. I'm not saying they have to be good. I'm just saying part of me is like, God, if they fucking did that, I'd stand that game forever. Even if it was the
Yeah.
most Milquetoast game, I could be like, yeah, but that game, epic.
That does beg the question: what will they do with the next Zelda game? Because they because they're using the same map, like remixed in the new one, they have exhausted this. Okay, here's an open world Zelda with a whole lot of physics thrown on top of it. They've exhausted that after this game. So the
Just
next one needs to do something unique.
be dicks and just take the Skyrim map and then just turn it into Zelda graphics and be like, here's an open world where Link goes to a northern kingdom. And then they do another game where it's the same map, but this time there's northern floating islands, or it's a
Northern,
cave
okay.
underneath.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
I don't know. I think like Max said, like, well, it tech on a very technical level, the trailer for Zelda got me more hyped than I've ever been for Tears of the Kingdom, which is true. But I'm
okay.
still not. But what he's saying there is also like, I wasn't really hyped for it. This got me. This looked better than it ever has.
Right.
I'm more hyped than I've ever been for this game. But that could go from zero. That could be like going from like a 0 to a 1. I'm not a 0 to a 1.
It's gonna be good. It
It's gonna be
is.
good.
Like
It's gonna be good. Breath of the Wild is still a good game. Whatever annoyances I have with it, it's still a good game. This will be a good game. I think it will be good. I don't know that it's going to be like because some people like the Breath of the Wild is arguably one of the greatest games. No, it's not. Um,
who says that
and
Breath of the Wild's arguably one of the greatest games ever
lots
made?
of Nintendo fans. I'm not one of them.
Are they
Um,
all under the age of 20?
Possibly some aren't, but
I was thinking about this also, and this is another aside. I'm sorry, but we might just be too old. Like we
I don't.
remember
I
too
don't.
many
Well, because the
games.
thing is, I moved on from Zelda. I found Xenoblade, and Xenoblade was giving me what I wanted in Zelda when Zelda wasn't going to give me that. And
Fair.
then Zelda kind of gave me that, but then kind of came with all these caveats with Breath of the Wild, where it's like, okay, no, 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 we're going to go back to having a giant fucking landscape. You're going to have all this freedom. You're going to have all this exploration. Oh, that's so cool. But now your weapons are made of paper mache, and there's no more dungeons. You don't get any new unique items throughout the game. You get them all within the first couple hours. The story is completely fucking gone. Like so it was like Breath of the Wild was like so much of what I wanted, and then so much of these like monkey pod wishes where it's like, yeah, but we also took this away and changed all these things to make it a little bit more annoying to just traverse da. And I'm like, oh, so that's why I'm like Breath of the Wild is a good game, but it's the bones of a better game, and
Hmm.
I'm hoping Tears of the Kingdom is the fucking the flesh on the bones. I don't expect it to be because I don't have that much faith in Anuma and Fujibayashi in particular. But they could prove me wrong. It really could. I am not closed off to the fact that this game could be everything I want in a Zelda game.
Yeah.
It won't be, pretty sure, because there still is weapon breaking, even though you can fucking glue shit together now. Um, but,
I do like
but
the armor that they're hinting at,
hmm,
like there being an armor system. I like that. That looks cool.
yeah, I mean, again, this could be the game. This
Right.
could be everything I've ever wanted in a Zelda game. It really could. It probably won't, but I'm not closed off to the idea that it could happen. Where Final Fantasy have kind of just been like, yeah, they're kind of games that go through dev hell and they finally get farted out. 16, I'm like, okay, I feel like 16 is I'm super faithful in 16, and Zelda, I'm like, I'm more hopeful. I think as at the end of the day, I'm faithful in 16 and I'm hopeful for Zelda.
Yeah, 16 looks like it's gonna fuck, and Zelda looks like it's gonna hold the line. Like it looks like it's gonna be a solid game, and it's not gonna have the same impact, I think,
No,
say,
yeah.
as like Ocarina of Time did.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the fact that it looks identical graphically to Breath of the Wild, um,
Which, you know,
and
isn't ugly, but it's not an ups it's
no,
not
but
a
like that just alone is going to sort of ensure that the game is always going to be compared, or all it's never going to have the same, because it's not the first time we've seen a Zelda look like this.
Oh, right, yeah, it will always be in the same breath, as it were, with Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's always going to live in at its side or in its shadow. It's never it's very unlikely. I don't think there's any way this game will ever be able to stand out as this completely unique Zelda experience. It's always going to be seen as the follow up to Breath of the Wild.
Well, on that note, off the top of your head, can you spell Milquetoast, by the way? Yeah.
Milquetoast.
Yeah. I always it's a fun word to spell, you
Yeah.
know? I'm gonna name the side quest Milquetoast. And yet we didn't even really talk about anything Milquetoast.
Nope.
All right, guys, we'll catch you next time. And as
Later.
give us your suggestions, questions, stuff like that. This time we didn't take a suggestion because there's a couple of topics that were prominent that we wanted to talk about. But generally speaking, side quests are where you're going to be able to suggest any old topic. Yeah. So hit us up. We'll catch you next time, guys.
Later, dudes.